Please welcome Scott Summit.
Hi, thanks. Yeah, okay, so how do you follow the Tron trailer with prosthetics? That is really tough, and I'd like to have words with the person who scheduled that one. Yeah, so I'm sitting there backstage, okay, what do you do? Well, but you guys are seeing cool motorcycle chase scenes and motorcycle crashes. I deal with prosthetics, so like there's a voice in me that says, those people are all going to come talking to me. You know, that sounds really crass, but that's, you know, you get used to that stuff. So what do? We create very individualized products for people with very personalized, subtle needs. And it's a very small market niche. So if you're thinking of going into this area, thinking, hey, that's a great market opportunity, well, you know, try taking that pitch to your investors or venture capitalists. You know, that's the holy trinity of what they never want to hear in their lives. But what we do actually speaks to, I think, a greater change that's going on in the industry, where we've been living in this age of mass production. We all surround ourselves with identical stuff. And mass production, I tend to think mass conditions us all to accept identical as a way of life, that we all have subsets of the same identical stuff, where we rarely actually own anything that is unique and individual in itself, made by us for us. And so we're all kind of mass conditioned to accept a certain level of mediocrity as well, because if a product is made for everybody, it's really not made for anyone in particular. And so enter the new age of design, where we start thinking in terms of one size fits one to replace one size fits all. So there's a new level of designer that comes out with that. And we're seeing in little bits of that in the digital world, certainly with Wikipedia. We see it with blurb books, with Pandora radio stations, with, you know, you name it, your news, that the user is now showing that they're an active and willing participant in the end product that they're creating. And so that now changes the role of the designer, because the designer now isn't thinking of making one thing that gets replicated identically by the millions. The designer now has a role of creating an environment within which individual, unique instantiations will be created. And so that takes us into a whole new level of user-centric design, because when that user is the very first element, first ingredient in the design process, it's necessarily more user-centric than you could ever achieve with mass production. And so with that, the products that I create are prosthetics. And there's a reason for that. The modern prosthetic really is not too dissimilar from aircraft landing gear. And that's what's shown here. And that stands to reason because they're both made for really similar mechanical constraints. And they're both made from a collection of manufactured parts from competing manufacturers, in fact. And they're all assembled together to meet, in the case of prosthetics, a very individualized challenge. And it's not that anything's really bad about that. You get some spectacular results. These are feats of modern engineering. It's not that it's bad, it's just that it's a project that's not finished. Because here we're in this age where we can create anything we can dream up. Is that really the best that we can do? You know, why do we have to look towards mass production for a solution to this problem that maybe we should look to the individual instead and use them as our inspiration for creating a product for them? So when we go down this path, there are a number of tools that will get us there and help break us out of this world of mass production. Three-dimensional scanning, parametric modeling, and 3D printing, when they're used in a certain conjunction, you can get into a whole new realm. So 3D scanning, when you take the person's body and put that into the design process, it's the very first thing that you do. Well, you're turning mass production on its head, because in mass production, the user is the last step in the process. Now the user, the specific user, is the first step in that process. So anything that will follow will be individually created for that person. Parametric design gives you a wide range of ability to create a very specific design for a specific person and let the computer do all the heavy lifting. And then additive fabrication, which has finally come to the point now where you can three-dimensionally print something that is beautiful enough and durable enough and ready to live in the life of somebody and fill some of their needs. So jumping into a couple of the people here, some of many that we've worked with. This is Chad. And Chad is a cancer survivor and a soccer player. And you can imagine playing soccer competitively when your right leg has been replaced by a 30mm titanium pipe. You know, imagine, it's not quite the same. So to work with that, we 3D scanned his body. mirrored over his left leg, and so now he has a mirrored facsimile of the leg that was once lost. His brain can think of that once again as his own body morphology. It becomes an extension of his body to a degree. He can think of his body as whole and complete again. And his brain can remap that into his own morphology. We also created a leg for him just for walking around town. And the idea here is not to create something that is going to trick anyone into thinking it's his real leg. We're not about that. That would be an artifice. We're not about making something that's going to fool somebody into thinking you've got your flesh and blood black. We want to make something that just looks really, really damn good, so that now people who see him and engage him, they don't look away awkwardly. They don't treat him uncomfortably. They don't tell their kids to look the other direction. People engage him and they tell him what a really cool leg he's got. That changes every minute of every day of his life, and that's what really gets us excited. So this is James. He lost his leg in a motorcycle crash. See, motorcycles. It's a story of my life these days. James lost his leg in a motorcycle crash, but the motorcycle is still a really big part of his life, and we want to really factor that into the design of his leg. So check out also the tattoo on his right forearm there. So the tattoo found its way to his leg that was custom created for him, based again on his body morphology. The interesting thing that you see here is that at first glance, it's kind of hard to tell where James stops and the motorcycle starts. That the leg is an extension of James's personality, and it also has a suggestion of his motorcycle built into it as well. That there's this union that kind of goes on between James' personality, his own personal body morphology, and the motorcycle. This is Deborah. When we first started talking to Deborah, she said she liked the idea of a sexy cyborg. And can we do that? And it's like, you tell a designer, hey, I want a sexy cyborg. Say, yeah, we can do that. I've waited all my life for that kind of question. So, yeah, we can do sexy cyborg. So, again, body scan, mirrored it over, created new geometry, and gave her a nickel-plated, chrome-polished calf. And yeah, that gets the sexy cyborg thing. She wears that now. Got plenty of attitude there. But we also created a leg just for walking around town, something a little bit more low-key, a little more casual and comfortable. And again, it's her body morphology. We're simply giving her her body shape back. And we also, of course, want to give her fishnet stockings. And so this is the first time I've ever seen fishnet stockings that actually define the shape of the person instead of wrapping their existing shape. And she's a big fan of mid-century modern, so we gave her walnut accents that would make Charles and Ray Eames proud. And at the end of the day, what we managed to do is just offer to these people that we work with a simple way to get that very basic luxury of having their own body shape back and having uniqueness, having something that is their form instead of a 30-millimeter pipe, having it something so that they can feel down and feel a familiar shape that they've always known instead of something unfamiliar made from a mass production process. And so this is all allowed through a combination of 3D scanning, through parametric modeling and three-dimensional printing, and a break from traditional methods that lets us get rid of mass production one-size-fits-all thinking. Thank you.